What's up, everybody? This is Currency Capsule / at Mr. Smiles a Lot with another Let's Talk Me to LLC audio podcast. How's everybody doing tonight? It is a wonderful Tuesday night, and I just had an amazing dinner with my family, with my little boy and my wife. And in life you really have to take value in the fact of when you get to do things like that. Have those special moments with your family, friends, and loved ones. And don't take it for granted, So anyway, today's podcast is going to be about mental health advice on how to get over feeling like you're lost or not good enough. Also, I just wanted to say, sometimes people might think, who's his niche exactly? What audience is Kobe going for? Well, to be honest with you, it's pretty much anyone in the market area of digital or social media marketing or any type of business, big or small, that might need help with their marketing and getting their name out there through what I do, right? And so when it comes to a niche, it's not that I don't have a niche necessarily. There are certain markets I might want to go towards, but as of right now, my business is pretty much open to any niche out there that might need my help. Because yes, it's very good to stick to one niche, but for what I do, personally, I feel like if I keep it open, then I won't be so closed off to a bunch of different niches, so people won't want to do work with me. They'll, as long as I keep my business open for working with whoever wants to do work with me, who I see fit, then, they'll keep me open to other opportunities, right? And I know sometimes you might think, well, wait, his name, Mr. Smiles a Lot, he doesn't always talk about positive things. He usually talks about harsh, dark reality things. But I keep it light, though, because like I said, I don't like to be controversial and I don't want to make anyone upset. But what I'm getting at is that I'm just trying to be real with you. Because yes, I can be smiling in every video. I could be saying things like, this is how this works and that works and all that. And it's not that I would be fake. It's just that I would feel like I'd be putting on a front or a character, and I'm not trying to act. I'm trying to be myself, right? Excuse me. And so when I say I'm trying to be real with you, we all know how the world really is. So what I try to do is I try to talk about things that are good for your mental health, that can help you get over those bad things, through those struggles. So basically what I'm getting at is that I might be talking about something dark or something that sounds like harsh or mean or whatever, however you want to say that. But at the end, though, like say there's an advice video or this podcast or whatever I do, there's always a positive light at the end. Whether that's my own personal reflection based off of what I know or what I've been through or my own experience, or based off of the articles that I read, right? So what I'm getting at is that it might not be all sunshine and rainbows, but at the end of what I say, that's where the Mr. Smiles a Lot part comes in. So if you've noticed, yes, my name is Mr. Smiles a Lot, but what I say at first, hi, this is my name, Currency Capsule / at Mr. Smiles a Lot. So I guess in a way, it's not that I have two different personas or two different online, names. It's just that I guess you could say the first part of me is like kind of me talking, and then maybe the other half is the Mr. Smiles a Lot part of me. But because of how positive I try to keep things, because of how loving I try to be, because of how light I try to keep things, and how non-controversial I try to keep things with how I do things, that's the Mr. Smiles a Lot part. That's the sweetness that you see in me. That's the loving side of me. That's the nice guy that you see in me. What I'm getting is that sometimes my name might not make sense to what I say or do, but in the end, though, if you really pay attention to what I say, that's where it all comes together, right? It's kind of like a book, You can't just, look at the front and back page and think that you know everything. You got to read the whole thing. Think about that, right? Anyway, so when I said mental health advice on how to get over feeling like you're lost or not good enough. I'm so sorry, the St. Louis weather. It's up and down, my allergies, right? So this is from Psychology Today, and this is from, Davis, or Chikiki Davis, PhD. Click here for happiness. I am so sorry. It's Tchiki Davis, PhD. Okay, so this is by her, and it was posted June 7th, 2022, reviewed by Gary Drevich. So, this is called How to Overcome Feeling Inadequate. So, let's see what they have to say. And as you know, my podcast, I like to read things along with you guys as you listen. I like to read them raw so that way I can react with however my audience reacts. And then when I give my own personal advice on it, it just helps me keep it fresh. Now, I'm not saying I can't read them ahead of time and have a script of what I want to say, but I like to read it along with you so that way maybe we can all feel the same way about something, if that makes any sense. So, have you ever struggled to feel good about yourself? Do you wonder if you're good enough? Do you question whether you're competent enough? You may be dealing with feelings of inadequacy. Well, speaking of which, speech impediments. Feelings of arise when we feel we're not enough or not good enough. These feelings generally have nothing to do with our actual performance or abilities. In fact, these feelings may have a lot more to do with low self-esteem or low self-confidence that any objective measure of ability or competence. So, that's like, when you ever think, am I good enough for, my family? Am I providing enough? Am I doing enough? I have those moments. And sure, I am, and because of God willing to give me the will and the strength and the ability to do what I do, I'm able to do these things. But everyone has these self-doubts, But sometimes, though, the reassurance can come from the sweetest little things you least expect. Like a few days ago. Or was it yesterday? No, it was yesterday. I was getting ready for work, and my little boy, he was right behind me on my bed. And I was mentally, not out loud, saying and thinking to myself, am I really good enough, Dad? Am I really a good husband? Am I really providing enough for my family? Like, am I doing well enough? And it's like he could read my mind, because next thing I know, I feel him patting me on the back, and the next thing I know, I feel his arms wrap around me from behind, and he pulls me in for a hug. And that was the only approval I needed right there. Does that make any sense? So, I didn't feel inadequate at that time. I felt like I was enough. It's like him, my little boy, reading my mind and doing that for me was his way of saying, like, yes, Daddy, you are. Like, I do love you, and you are doing enough. That made me feel really good. Made my self-esteem go up, and when I did have a low self-confidence, that brought my confidence back up. So they say, the American Psychological Association defines an inadequacy complex, more commonly known as inferiority complex, right, is a feeling of inadequacy or insecurity coming from actual or imagined physical or psychological deficiencies. This feeling of being, quote, less than, unquote, or, quote, inferior to, or, unquote, others can often cause us to shut down, withdraw, or act aggressively depending on our coping styles. So, I guess mine would be, and I think I talked about this last time a while ago, is I kind of shut down. It's not because, it's just because I don't want to argue sometimes. And I don't want to argue back, especially like when I can see that maybe I do need to be corrected. Like, sure, sometimes maybe the way the person's talking to me at that time isn't correct. So what I'll do is, like, I'll shut down. I'll just be like, okay, then I'll walk away. And then when I can tell that me and that person that I was having issues with or whatever is, we're okay now, I'll bring it up and say, this made me feel like this. Because that way it's not aggressive. I'm not being aggressive when I approach it. I'm not being mad. I'm not letting them know that I'm mad. I'm just letting them know, hey, like, this happened, so why don't we actually talk about it now, because that, there might be those times where you're sitting there, you might get aggressive, because if you're already arguing and you can't see each other's side of things, the conversation's, it's going to go nowhere. So the best thing to do is it's not that I feel less than necessarily or inferior, and it's not that I have an inadequate complex about myself. It's just more of a thing of where it's like, I just don't want to argue. This isn't worth it. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm right. Oh, this person's wrong. I mean, sometimes I am wrong, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, and then I'll walk away. But then I'll tell them about how they made me feel about how they were talking to me or how they approached me in that situation, right? And I think it's better to approach it with a more of a kinder approach than how they came at you. Because one, it shows maturity, and two, it shows that you've grown as a person, that you can take criticism, that you can take things in a way to where you don't act out or you don't lash out. To me, that's the best way to have control over that. But that's just my opinion. So this says people who feel inadequate may also experience the following feelings, and there's some bullet points: withdrawal / quiet / shy, okay, insecurity, negativity, unhappiness, anger / hostility, low motivation. Keep in mind that we all feel these emotions to some extent. Some of us just feel more inadequate than others. Right. And so, excuse me, I'm sorry. So people feel inadequate may also experience the following feelings. So that does happen. I mean, well, okay, let me put it this way. When I say I'm feeling inferior to, I'm not saying as in like, oh, like they're talking over me, so I feel inferior. No, I take it more as in they're trying to teach me a lesson, right? But, when I guess I feel like they're attacking my character, then I guess then that's when I feel insecure. And that's when I feel like the conversation went negative. And then that does make me unhappy. And I don't try to get angry. Like maybe I'll get angry at the time as I'm like walking away, like I said. But then once I finally, calm down, then I, after I'm not withdrawn or quiet or silent anymore, and once my motivation comes back up, see how I'm tying these bullet points into what they're saying? That's when I go back and approach them in the nice way and say, look, well, I know last time we talked things and then, weren't so well between us. So why don't we sit down and talk like, adults and actually talk this out, because I don't want any bad blood between us. We're friends. I love you, blah, blah, things like that. And to me, that's a very godly thing to do. And I think that's what God wants us to do, right? And I know sometimes things are, not always the easiest to forgive or to forget about, but I just don't know, and it's hard for me to not, say this because sometimes I do it without even thinking about it, but don't try to live with anger on your shoulders, you know what I mean? Like, take that weight off of you. That's all I'm saying. So here's some more advice from them: how to come over feelings of inadequacy. So here we go. Excuse me. If you're feeling inadequate in general or about something in particular, research shows that a number of strategies can help you feel better. Let me see. So here's the bullet point. Excuse me, I need some water. Okay. Modify your expectations and ideas. If we're constantly falling short of our expectation and ideals, not ideas, it may be that we have unrealistic expectations of ourselves and what we can reasonably accomplish. Wow. Modify your expectations and ideals. If you're constantly falling short of your expectations, maybe, nope. See, and that's why I think I've said, actually, I did say this in my last podcast. Well, not actually my last podcast I had was with my aunt, Tracy, but the one before that I said, you know how many things I've tried and then walked away from when I realized I just didn't have it? Whether it was I wasn't talented at it, or I didn't have enough training, or I just realized this wasn't my thing. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the thing is that, I'm not saying don't go and try out different things. Do whatever you want to do, but there's certain things that God might have not made you built physically or mentally for. But that's okay, because He gave you other gifts that you can do, right? So, and I know I say this all the time, but instead of comparing yourself to someone else and thinking I'm not as good as them, or I'm not as athletic as them, or good looking, or they're so much better than me. There's things that you have qualities about yourself where you're better than them in certain things, and there's certain things. Then guess what? That's okay, because Look, and this might sound kind of weird and like not really fair, but sometimes you're not supposed to be good at everything, right? That's because whatever you're not good at, that's someone else to take care of. So that's more weight off of your shoulders. That's less of a burden on you. Think about that, right? I mean, sure, like as a man, do you want to learn to be a mechanic? Sure, that's fine. Or, maybe you could just find somebody who knows how to do it because that's what they've been doing their whole life and they're really good at it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel inadequate. Don't feel like, oh man, I'm not this or that because of it. Who cares? Like I said, there's a lot of things you're really good at, I'm sure, that other people aren't. And, maybe, if they ever get, curious, just show them what you know. And then so that way they can pass it on to someone else. It's like they say, knowledge is power, I'm sorry, I kind of went off on the first bullet point here, excuse me. Build skills and expertise, here we go. If you're feeling inadequate on a particular task, there we go, take the time to build your skills. Over time, you'll feel more competent and capable. No one is good at everything right away. So try not to get down on yourself for being a beginner at something. Okay, so let's see. That is so true. So, excuse me. That was a dinner belches. Excuse me, people. Sorry about that. Yeah, you got to build something. You got to build a foundation. I've said that so many different times. It took me for a long time to get good at what I at least know enough for, this media stuff. It took me a long time to get good at security, or as good as I am at security. It took me a long time to figure out a good workout plan, whatever works for me to keep my health in check, to keep my body at a healthy weight. It took me a long time to learn how to intermittent fast. It took me a long time, obviously, to be as gifted as martial arts as I am. But the thing is that, just like I'm going to say again with God, it's not that he tests you, but sometimes he wants things to take time, because the more the way he testing, right? And the more he tests you with whatever takes more time for you to do, only shows that he wants you to build that upon yourself, to build it with your character of who you are, because he knows it'll be good for you, right? And like they said, he won't ever make you take on too much, or he won't ever make you take anything on that he knows you can't handle. So, like I said, go out and try what you can, but if you can tell that it's not your skill or your expertise, like I said, it's, excuse me, especially if it's causing you mental stress because of mental health, there's nothing wrong with walking away. I am so sorry. But yeah, no one is good at anything right away. But, you got to at least try. So, cultivate emotion regulation skills. All right, so yeah, we often feel most inadequate in difficult situations. But if we learn effective ways to regulate our emotions in these situations, they can be easier to manage and will reduce negative emotions. Negative emotions can actually impair our ability to make decisions and think clearly, which can fuel inadequacy. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, man, no, that's so true. Whenever I get like really worried or freaked out about something about work, like I get like this shut down, like nervous feeling, like sometimes my stomach can hurt a little bit if I'm being honest. Sometimes like my mind is only focused on that one thing until it's done, or until I know that it's done, or until I know the answer of that it's done, or how it's going to be done, because I can't let anything go missed. And I guess in a way, that's not good for me, because sometimes I do make decisions, not that I mean to, but that might have been like a silly or dumb mistake, because I let my nervousness get the best of me. So instead of thinking rationally, I like freak out, and then I end up doing like the wrong thing. Again, not my fault. It's just like that's my mind playing tricks on me, right? And I guess in a way, cultivating emotion, my regulation skills, I've gotten better at that in a way, because like I said, with self affirmation, and speaking of realizing that you're good enough. Sometimes whenever I do get those nervous feelings or when that happens, I do remind myself that I am good at this, that I am gifted at that. And, I do thank God for making me being gifted and being able to get to where I am in my life right now because of those gifts, right? So that helps me cultivate my emotions to help regulate them a little bit. Does that make any sense? So I've gotten better at it. I'm still something I really need to work on. Like I said, the one thing I've been really working on, like I keep talking about over and over again, is not shutting down as much, and then trying to talk about things like right then and there. But like I said, sometimes if I can tell it's just a big argument, it's going to turn into nothing more than an argument, or there's going to be no resolving the issue there. That's when I'll say, okay, I need to just, we'll talk about this later, or I'll like, very smoothly and very nicely say, we need to have this conversation later because I don't want it to turn into something. You get what I mean. Anyway, another bullet point: practice self-compassion. Regardless of how competent we are at a given task, we have value and are worthy of self-kindness. Yes, we are. Practice showing yourself self-compassion and using loving kindness meditation to grow your love for yourself and others, or turn to God. Sorry, but if it makes you feel good, meditate, practice something, practice. Shoot, like actually, I was talking about this with my boss, so I was like, I'm not a botanist or I don't have a green thumb, but it's crazy just how happy people are who have a garden. And he was like, I know it. He was like, but good for them, that's their peace and happiness. They want to go out there and create plant life for hours and hours on end and do their thing. He was like, let them do it. And he was like, there's nothing wrong with it. They're not hurting anyone, and if it brings them happiness, why not? Like, exactly. So, excuse me. And it doesn't always have to be like martial arts. It doesn't always have to be working out. It doesn't always have to be prayer. It doesn't always have to be going to a psychologist. It can just be, it can also be one of those things where you can think about of like the good things that you have in your life and and take value in that, right? Or take value in your own compassion of how hard you've worked to get where you are today, things like that. Or, be worthy of self-kindness. Like I said, just remind yourself of like, man, I'm here because of how hard I've worked. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's because, I know I sound like sometimes when I talk a lot, I sound like a broken record. But that's only because I'm stating the facts of what I know. And what I'm getting at is self-kindness, besides for your mental health, you should practice that. And just self-affirmation. Because, like I said, we're too hard on ourselves sometimes, and it's not really fair. Life's not fair. So let's see. So here's another bullet point: build a growth mindset. A growth mindset is when we believe we have the ability to grow and improve. This mindset helps us more easily overcome skill deficits. Okay, we know we can improve, so we put more effort into improving ourselves. As a result, we can end up more skilled than we have ever imagined. So, a growth mindset, let's read that again. A growth mindset is when we believe we have the ability to grow and improve. Yeah, right. This mindset helps us. So what I'm getting at is that don't think you fail. Don't think, oh, I can't do this. Don't think I'm not good at this. Just think like, maybe this just isn't working out. So go and improve on it, right? Or don't think of your failures as a failure. Think of it as a place for a room to grow. Whether that's something that is mental or physical or just anything in life, And I guess it's my way of, saying build a good mindset or a growth mindset. Because, like I said, it helps us more easily overcome skill deficits, right? So, like I was like, what did I just say earlier? Sometimes when I would get down on myself, I think, I'm good at this, I'm good at that because of the gifts that God gave me and because of how hard I worked at those gifts to get to where I am today, right? So that's a good growth mindset because sometimes it helps me get out of the funk whenever I feel like I'm not good enough. Yeah, like this, and then like I said, if we know we can improve, so We put more effort into improving ourselves. Exactly. Hence why I'm actually working out a lot more than I ever have in my lifetime. Because I'm trying to keep myself healthy and for my kid, my family. But that is a different point for later on. So here's the last bullet point, and then they say in some. So, and I think I'm going to end the podcast here. Focus on your strengths. We all have strengths. By finding your strengths and capitalizing on them, you focus your attention more on what you're good at than what you're not good at. Plus, you can put your strengths to work and succeed in areas that rely on these strengths. That is so true. Yet again, 100%. So let's see. Focus on your strengths. So, like I said, focus on what makes you you. Focus on what makes you special. Focus on what makes you help others. That helps you, excuse me, stand out, make a difference in someone's life. Focus on, again, like what you're good at versus what other people are good at. Think about, I'm so sorry. Think about when, or how, oh, and I'll be right back. Sorry about that, I'm back. Like I said, this St. Louis weather is not nice to my throat. Anyway, I'm sorry about that, people. So, focus on your strengths, right? So, you focus your attention more on what you're good at than what you're not good at. Plus, you can put your strengths to work to succeed in areas that rely on these strengths. Like I said, find out what you're good at, especially if God's showing you the way. Excuse me. Man. Showing you the way or showing you the path to what those strengths are. And trust in Him and believe in Him, right? And then capitalize on those. And do it in a way to where you're helping others. Do it in a nice, sweet, loving way. Don't do it in a boastful way where you're showing off or you think you're better than other people, right? Because to me, then that strength that you have becomes a weakness because you're, downplaying other people. Or you're well, you get where I'm going with that. But so whatever your strength is, find it. Especially with how dark this world is, how mean and nasty this world is, because it's already hard enough as it is. So what I'm getting at is, you are enough. Stop feeling inadequate. Take some of the weight off your shoulders. Because there's people out there who do rely on you. There's people out there who do love you. And there's people out there who do know that you're making a difference in their life, whether you want to believe it or not. So what I'm saying to you all out there is focus on your strengths, build your growth mindset, practice self-compassion, cultivate emotion regulation skills. I'm going backwards up this list, but build skills and expertise. Seek help from others. Modify your expectations and ideals. And yeah, so they say in summary, it's totally normal to feel inadequate from time to time. If we work at it, we can reduce the amount of time we spend feeling this way, and we can leave more room for self-confidence. Implementing any of these strategies can help you feel more competent and comfortable in situations that might produce inadequacy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so... And that's the other part. So if you keep working at those skills, if you end up running, like they were saying, if you end up running into whatever you were struggling with, you'll be able to handle it getting better next time. Or you'll be such an expertise at it that whatever you were struggling with earlier will no longer be an issue, right? And then that's where your comfortability comes in. That's where your growth mindset comes in and your strength, right? This all connects and all correlates back to each other. And like I said, now I know a lot of times, and I'm so sorry, people, it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just that whenever I do repeat myself, especially when it comes to my advice videos or this podcast, it's just literally because I am talking about what I know personally, and then I give my own personal advice based on my life experiences and what I've gone through. And the thing is that, sure, what I've gone through might not be the same thing you've gone through, but maybe I can be that light that helps you in the darkness throughout your day. That's why I try to do what I do. That's why I do these advice videos. That's why I do these podcasts. That's why I run my business the way that I do. That's why I do things as nice and positive as I can, because I want to make that difference in people's lives. I want to make people feel good. I want to make them feel better about themselves, like whatever way that I can. So what I'm getting at is, in this mean, dark, nasty world, just And it's easier said than done. But don't feel inadequate. Don't feel like you aren't enough. And please, don't be so hard on yourself. Because look, here's the thing. I love you. God loves you, especially God. If you're not going to listen to me, listen to him, especially. Life is tough. So what I'm trying to get at is that you are good enough. And wherever you're at in your life right now, it's because of you, and it's because of God, and it's because of God showing you that way of how you got there in your life in the first place. Anyway, again, I know I repeat myself a lot. Sorry if I rambled on some things, but, this is just how I do it and do my podcast. But anyway, I love you all so much. Thank you all so much for listening. If you live in St. Louis, and if you need a marketer or an advertiser, and if you need a martial arts coach, please let me know. This has been Co-Emergency Capsule / at Mr. Smiles a Lot. Sorry, I had to make sure I got that in there. And I love you all, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all for listening.